And we're live. Welcome everyone to
Welcome, guys. Hey,
Pundits
guys.
Sports weekly F1 stream. Hi Sid, how are you?
I'm great especially after the race that we had last week. Oh my God,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still reeling from the effects of it. It. It was something else. There's so much that happened. It's so much to take. और इतना खुशी दिया उस रेस ने ना, like
It was
factually.
maximum meme race, no? Like
Yeah,
no
yeah.
can come out of that race.
So this episode we have something really special for you guys. We have someone who races in the GT4 European Series, and he's part of the Aston Martin Academy. So, guys, guys, I would like to welcome Akhil Rabindra.
Hello,
Hey, man. Hi.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you, Dhaval. It's great to be here. I think the whole F1 scene in India is picking up in the last few years. I think a little bit credit to Netflix and Drive to Survive. But yeah, it's great to be with you guys and do this post race.
Yeah, because
and the
Netflix
40
has
million Daniel
romanticized the idea
Ricciardo
of
fans that
racing.
it created also, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think like anything, like even in India, when there's 4 channels of cricket and everyone's watching it, you get into it, you play every day, you all that. And I mean, until back then, there was a thing only one channel playing racing, and it'll only be the start of the race to the end of the race. I think now there's, you're getting to watch a little bit of the pre-race, post-race, and I think Netflix more than anything, it's educating you on how it takes place and behind the scenes. So if people, whenever you learn a new sport, you go for a game or a match, right? And then someone's always coaching and be like, this is the rules, this is how it works, blah, blah, blah. I think Netflix really took care of that. And I think more than anything, it got very personal with the racers. So, everyone connects to someone in a different way.
Absolutely. And it has
I
been
think
like
Netflix sensationalized it also. Netflix is like it's like the Balaji telefilms of the racing world. Even if there is nothing, they manage to get something out of it. I don't know what they're gonna make. I think there'll be a different season for Baku altogether. I feel. I think.
Yeah, I hope you don't miss
This is
anything.
practically the resurrection of Sebastian. Yeah. So let's. So I just wanted to ask, like the series that you're racing in now. Just tell us something about it, like the specifics of it, and
Sure. So basically, it's GT4. So GT4 is a category in GT racing. There's no GT5. There's no GT6. The next level is GT3, and there's another level called GTE, which is predominantly a GT3 car, but it is with more aero and less power. So in some ways, you can say Formula 2, Formula 3 of the GT world. Whenever we talk about GT racing, it's very new to people. But it's basically the cars which manufacturers produce, and we race those cars. And the best example is the movie which came out, Ford versus Ferrari. That's what a GT car is. And then coming to GT4 European Series, we have all cars are GT4. We have, I think, 8 manufacturers from Aston, Audi, McLaren, Alpine, and so on. So we race in 3 different categories. Silver, which I'm in. So it's 2 silver graded drivers. We have a pro-am, which is a pro driver, and an amateur. So pro is anyone who is gold or platinum rated, and amateur is a bronze rated driver. And then you have am and am, which is 2 bronze drivers. So yes, we're all racing in the same race with 3 different categories, but our podiums are different, but you're still competing. So for example, what is very interesting is in my qualifying, I'm qualifying with my silver counterparts, but also the pros of the pro-ams. So in a way, I'm qualifying with 35, 40 drivers, which is interesting because you want to be the fastest silver, and also you want to be better than the pros of the pro-am. And also a little bit on the championship, we go to most of the Formula 1 tracks. With Monza, which we finished, Paul Ricard, which we finished, going to Zandvoort, which should have been on Formula 1 last year, Barcelona, Nürburgring, Spa. So all proper F1 tracks, no street circuits or any regional tracks. So it's a pretty good championship. The competition is probably one of the most competitive GT4s. So yeah, it's really cool to race there.
It's basically concentrated around Europe, I feel like. The series. And it must be really tough, like qualifying when you're in qualifiers with 30 to 35 to 40 drivers. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those when it's a really fast track, meaning the lap time is it's a shorter lap time, or if the short circuit where again the lap time is pretty short. You tend to get traffic, right? And then it's very weird when you say there's traffic in qualifying. People don't understand, but you'll always you'll catch someone on your lap who is speeding up or slowing down. Sometimes it's beneficial because you can get a tow and it helps you in your lap time, and sometimes it's not. So you're always hoping for getting a clear lap. First is a clear lap. Second is if anyone is there, they get out of the way, in the right spot. And third, if they give you a tow, then you're really nailed qualifying.
And it also matters because, like, if you as a GT4 driver, or not you specifically, like anybody could affect anybody else's race just by getting a safety car on or something like that. Like pro-am racing together would make a difference, right? There's a different level of skill on track at the same time.
Yeah, rightly said. When you're racing with a lot of these drivers, the AM drivers, obviously they're amateurs, but they've been racing. It really depends. So there's the ability of safety cars to come, like you rightly said. But at the same time, when you're lapping them, or when it's a track where it's you're faster than the car in front, but you just don't have that extra bit to overtake, it gets very difficult. At the same time, if you're battling and there's an AM car, sometimes you might have two pro-am cars in front of you, and it's like, yes, you're in the same race, but you're not in the same race because you're not going to get much by overtaking them. You will just be in the same position, silver. So it's all about, and also vice versa. If you're leading that pack and there's two pro-am cars behind, it's how much risk you want to take. If you drop two positions, it's fine because you're not in their fight. But yeah, I think that way, the variables are much higher with the teammate.
Absolutely. And it's also like the driver who starts the race doesn't have to finish the race. There can be multiple drivers, right? That's also
it's so there's two qualifyings, Q1 and Q2. So the driver who does Q1 obviously starts race 1 and the second driver finishes, and the driver does race Q2 starts race 2 and the first driver finishes. So it's there's a pit window between 25 and 35 minutes where even in like Formula 1, we're trying to stay out as long as we can and hope something happens. So if you pit in a safety car, it's you lose less time. But again, it's the pit stop is very dependent. So in the pro-am category, the AMs will pit right away. So they will do the least amount of driving. They'll come in like a 25, 26, and they give the pro the most of the time, and if they start. And in the other way, they would let the pro drive as long as they can and give the AM less time. So you have a lot of these variables where, and like in a track like Zandvoort, it's a very short, tight pit lane. So you don't want to be coming in when there's like 10 cars. So then one, you're slow on the way in. Two, if there's if there's 3 cars back to back going on the exit of the pit lane, and you just got to wait, which is like 8-10 seconds. So a lot of factors you want to think. Like anything, you're monitoring them, you're monitoring yourself. So like small things, the AM will not drive the most. So like the first 4-5 minutes they will come and there's stuff to get over. Then it's more silver. So, but yeah, I mean, like you stick to the basics. You want to pit preferably when there's a safety car where you don't lose much time. But at the same time, what happens in the pit is you got to optimize and get the best out of it.
So this is basically the format that Le Mans has, basically. Because I remember from Ford versus Ferrari, it had like 2 to 3 drivers and.
Yeah, it's the same, but the only difference is we have 2 1-hour races, and depending on the championship and format, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whatever hour races. So this in Europe in GT4 it's sprint races, But in other championships which I've raced, you would race 12 hours and 24 hours, and you would have two going up to 4 drivers and keep circling through them.
Right. So I mean, that's pretty, like, it's vastly different from Formula racing. And
yeah.
So, and for, like, I know there aren't a lot of people in India who watch GT racing or who even know about GT racing. So, like, what made you go down that road?
Yeah, I mean, when I started racing, it was pretty simple. The aim was Formula One, and like anyone racing, you want to get to Formula One, and most people know the hierarchy is you do F4, F3, F2, and you hopefully get a chance. So I did do F4, I did do junior Formula 4, and then went up to British F3, and then we after doing a season of British F3, we realized that in a combination of personal, financial, and so many other matters, that the amount of time, risk, financial commitment you need to go up to Formula 2 and beyond is a lot. And if you just put some basic math and basic probability is 20 drivers in Formula 1. Not everyone gets replaced. There's 1 or 2 getting replaced. For 1 or 2 getting replaced, there's guys sitting on bench or sitting outside. And then there's also guys who are finishing for Formula 2 this year already. So for every seat, there's like anything, right? Even with best companies, they want the best people, and there's always people fighting. So that's agreeable. But when like you take Red Bull, right? There's probably 3 drivers. There's Alex Albon, there's Pierre Gasly in some way. There's the F2 guys were coming through. There's so many guys waiting to get that seat, it's so the probability is a lot harder. GT racing is, I'd say, the top, which is where you become a factory driver. It's a bigger population, so you're talking about trying to get a seat, in 100 drivers across 10 manufacturers, right? So, and when I say get a seat, you have a factory driver, you have a junior driver, you have an academy driver. So the population on the top is far greater, and yes, there's a bigger population of drivers, but in some way it's easier with a lower financial commitment.
Like Akhil rightly said, there's a lot of pressure when it comes to Formula 2. We have Jan, who drives for the Red Bull program. Then you have Liam Lawson, you have Yuri Vips. You have 3 drivers there. Then you already have other drivers who are waiting for a seat.
Yeah.
And so the probability, I think, is probably always 1:7 in a Formula 2, or even to have a Formula 2 seat. It's very difficult, because I think Ferrari comparatively has been able to manage this particular predicament comfortably, because they have like a proper Ferrari Drivers Academy program. I feel like sometimes, because I've been following Ferrari for a while, so anyone who gets into the Ferrari Academy is assured a seat in Formula 2 or Formula 1. At least they are assured like a complete run in Formula 2, because they even have a great team. They have a great team in Prema. So Prema, so they have a great team in Prema in Formula 3 and Formula 2. So we have seen some good talent coming up. We've seen Mick, we have seen Charles. Then so now we have Callum Aylott also. So I feel Ferrari has been able to solve this issue. Even Alpine for this season, they have been having some good drivers, like they have a good driver in Guan Yu Zhou in Formula 2. So comparatively, Red Bull has not been able to kind of solve this predicament, because not many drivers I see in Formula 2 who get to drive the Formula 1 cars also. Because last season, I think only in one race Yuri Vips got to become a reserve driver, compared to other manufacturers in Formula 1. So as you said, it's a little tough in terms of capital, in terms of sponsors. Like, I think last race, I think we had one of the drivers from Formula 2 back out. Matteo Nannini backed out. So it gets a little tough in Formula 2 and Formula 1 to get an assured seat. So
I think that's exactly like you said. If there was, I think, some meme or something on Instagram which I saw, the Baku podium finish is current Red Bull and 2x Red Bull, which is Vettel and Gasly. So I mean, Red Bull has the widest academy, probably because there are so many drivers, and there are only 4 seats. I mean, if you look at it, Pierre is on top form. People are saying that if he doesn't get a Red Bull seat next year, then he's probably going to look elsewhere. But at the same time, Sergio is doing such a good job.
But
he'll probably stay back.
Does Pierre get
that's also true.
After the way he's been treated, why? Like, he's doing so well where he is right now. So he may not even want to. Like, he's like, if I'm going to a top team, I might as well look elsewhere. Maybe, swoop in for Bottas's seat. Who knows?
Yeah, or even Alpine. I don't know if there's a French.
There was a rumor this year also. So, but Alpine, what I see is that it's going to get very difficult, because if Guan Yu Zhou goes ahead and wins the championship this year in Formula 2, so they may give him that seat, because he comes with a strong backing. He comes with a strong backing of sponsors. So Alpine the second seat, because this season Ocon has he showed his worth. He's like probably. Dhaval doesn't like Ocon.
Dhaval is like, no qualification to like or dislike these guys, but I don't know. I think Ocon is whatever. Side aadmi hai kafi. But whatever. If you guys are just joining us, we're talking about GT4 racing with a GT4 racer, that is Akhil Rabindra right here. He drives for Aston Martin, the European series, and we're also doing a breakdown of Baku F1 race. So, hit the like button.
Hit that like button,
button if you guys like what we're doing. And we have a question coming in from chat. And this is quite relevant to generally F1 and also what we saw in Baku is the Pirelli tires.
Yeah.
Why? It's a question from some guy who's been really trolling in chat, but put one nice question, so I'm going to take that. It's why did the tires fail? And generally, this is, Pirelli has been criticized for their tires in the past also, and this year heavily. So
last year I think it was Silverstone. This year it was Baku.
Imola also for Max. And if you look back on Baku, I can't remember the year, if it's 18 or 19. Even Bottas on the main straight, he had a puncture. And that was related to debris. And I think somewhere before entering turn when he got a punch and he was leading the race, so he was second, right? So I think Baku is just, because it's a street circuit, there are just so many things on the track. In some ways, yes, there are cleaners and sweepers and all kinds of things cleaning the track and getting rid of any objects. But inevitably, things come on the track, and the tires are strong and well built, and they're supposed to be stronger this year, but they're just also very sensitive. Saying that, like you said, Silverstone last year, I think last year was a different compound, which in some ways you can't compare it, but because it was not as sturdy, not as strong, and this year the whole purpose was to make the tire stronger, which increased the tire life and reduced performance. Hence, the lap times are slower than last year. But yeah, I think it was very unfortunate for Stroll and even Max. I think at one, it shouldn't be happening. Two, where it happened, it could have been 10 times worse. They could have, it could have been really bad. But at the same time, it's a tire which is going at such high speed and there's so much happening. All you need is something really tiny, which is even blunt, or which can make any sort of piercing, and that's enough for it to lose pressure. And street circuit, and we always talk about wind, right? There's so many, there's wind, there's so much, there's a very windy race, and during the whole weekend, so you never know what's getting blown here and there, and and Formula 1 drivers are really good at spotting things. So if it is something which is anything sharp which can damage, they will avoid it, put it between the tires or go around it. So they're not, they're doing their bit. So this really must have been something really tiny which is just punctured the tire. But saying that, that's what Pirelli says, it's debris on the track, and the tires should have gone 40. I mean, they said it would have gone 40 laps, and Stroll was on 31 or 32, which is a question mark. But then the other way was Max was barely 20 laps in or something. So it's hard to say, and it's probably debris, right?
Like there was a meme where after the race was red flagged after Max's after Max's debacle, after the race was red flag, the Pirelli guys were talking to Toto Wolff, and Toto Wolff is like, "Good job, guys. Good job on the tires."
There's some questions about Singapore. Yeah, Singapore is not happening this year. Like because of the street circuits beneath.
I think it's been replaced by Austria. I think we're having 2 races Austria this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody in the chat saying, once a great man said, it's the sprint, not a marathon. Sorry, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It is.
Did I leave the magic on?
Did
I leave the magic on?
We will come to that. Let's talk about the race now, Baku, and beginning of the race. Leclerc started in pole, but he lost it in what, like right
2 laps.
there, 2 laps he lost pole. Like he was off P1, and then it was just like
a sad race for him. It was like it was a sad race for Leclerc. I mean, he just kept on losing positions throughout the race.
Like, but I think it was inevitable, right? I mean, Ferrari knew, he knew, everyone knew. I mean, and people will say, it's a Ferrari, it's fast, he's got pole and all that. But it's a very different car when there's full fuel and we don't have the same top speed or the power unit producing the same power. But that 2 laps, Hamilton overtook him without DRS. That just shows how strong that Mercedes engine is. And obviously Max with DRS and even Perez with DRS. And I think Perez knew that as long as he could go, I mean, he thought he could run away and go away, that he could do a good job. And even when DRS opened, I think his number one goal was to follow the car within a second, so he could at least, not let the person behind catch up. But I think he did his bit. It was inevitable. So only time would have decided when he would have dropped to 4th or 5th or wherever before the first stop.
Even Perez's start was great. I mean, he started off the race really well. Perez, then even after, I think after so many races, we have seen Giovinazzi getting a good start. He's known for his starts. Giovinazzi had a great start. He was up 4 positions. So this was a very exciting start. They gave us a Baku start, where cars would go up like positions, and on that straight you would have cars overtaking. So it was a typical Baku start that we had. But after that, even Gasly had a good start, and somewhere down the line, but it was not a good weekend for Bottas though.
Yeah, starting from his flight, his private jet.
Yeah, but I mean, so we've had this. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we say this in every episode because none of the guests are familiar with it because nobody watches that. Is that we have a theory at Couch Pundits that Mercedes has one designated guy whose only job is to mix with Bottas's car at the beginning of every race. Like Bottas waits for this guy. It's so regular. Like if the guy doesn't show up, Bottas gets anxiety. He's like, "Kidhar hai wo?"
I need to do some vastu or something to his car and his
straight up hammer, and they just like break the front of it and all.
He needs more threads, I think.
Yeah.
And
please,
like people can't stop gushing over how the race turned out for Vettel. I mean, oh my God! Like the whole week I've been watching videos of like the Vettel coming back, and his podium celebration, his radio message, And I mean, it was genuinely a very happy feeling for me watching Vettel on the podium because they had the car and it was coming, the way he drove in Monaco. There was a podium in the offing, but but so soon I did not know. I couldn't comprehend that it could be so soon. But it was but he drove a really well race. I mean, it was really well, a very calculated drive. Like, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I think like you said, see, if you go a little bit back, in those 4 or 5 years when he was doing really well, he got a huge fan following, right? And the same fan following grew when he went to Ferrari, and he was doing well there. And he obviously missed the championship 2 or 3 times by not a lot. And then obviously in 2020, when things didn't go right, it was a very strong decision by Ferrari, and the way they did it was, I think, not the right way according to him. And then they just fallen apart, and very publicly, right? Whenever they announced their 1,000th race, he announced him going to Aston, and all those subtle things. So and he obviously had a very bad. I mean, he didn't have a good year because he was not having mistakes, crashes, the engine not doing well, and so on. But that fan following was always still there with him, right? It's still one bad year. And this year, I mean, after seeing Racing Point's performance last year, and it was one of the best. I mean, the second best in the group of cars, which was third, fourth. They thought they would continue that momentum, and Vettel could pick up from there. And obviously, with the rule changes, it's not there yet. But him to come adjust to a new team, have good. I mean, first few races were difficult. Also, if you remember in preseason testing, I think he didn't get out for a day because they had some gearbox problem or something. So he's had probably the least running in a new team, new car. And that's why it obviously took more time for him to get up to speed. And now, since he's up to speed, I think, he's brilliant, he's talented, he's not made any mistakes. And the teams have got the pit stop strategy calls spot on, if it's Monaco or in Baku, right? So I think everything is just coming together where, pit stops have been good, the strategies have been good, he's doing a good job. Yes, you could argue that he could have, his qualifying could have been better where he qualified 11th, but, hindsight, so many things, but, he got the tire of his choice. He got a brand new set of softs, he went the longest, that played out in its own way. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, so many so many videos and so many positive things on him, and like things like he's got the first podium for Toro Rosso, first podium for Red Bull, and first podium for Aston. So the guy is talented. You don't win 4 championships for no reason.
Absolutely.
Because they were
sorry. This is extremely important. Somebody is saying Bottas needs Nimbu Mirchi on car, and I relate with that a lot.
It needs that ugly looking thing, you put on your house, whatever that is.
The horseshoe.
No, the red thing, right? You put on the top.
Yeah. We do this in South. Red color ka tarbooj type rehta hai.
Yeah.
So that should be hung from his car, and like especially like you said, Akhil, especially the reports that were coming in. I saw some articles where they wrote that Vettel has been bought to Aston Martin just to make Stroll look good. I was like, this is really sad. How could you even write something like that for a guy of this caliber and a guy who has such a great racing pedigree?
Yeah. If someone can pay for an entire team for their son, they can pay for some press also, for some bad press in this case. But
But if you look at Vettel and if you look at him as a package, right? It was obviously very sad when they had to, get Vettel on board and Sergio went. But he's that entire package. If you even small things, look at the new Aston Martin DBX ad. It's such a impacting ad with whatever 4-5 lines he's saying, and you look at all the interviews. I mean, the social media stuff he does with them, even though he's not on social media. There's a high relatability to him, his opinions with being a champion. So I think, and he's such, when he's on the radio or post race during things, when he's having a good weekend or when he's on pace, he's always very chirpy, making jokes and all that. So I think it's really good for the brand, Aston Martin, the brand. It's really good for him. It's a new challenge. Everyone likes a challenge in some way. So I think he's and I don't know if you know, like technically he's a very, very technical person with the debriefs and feedback. So I think he's really guiding the team to improve the car on really small things. Like anything, There's nothing fundamental to change. You change 10 small things, that's when you will get 2 tenths or 3 tenths, and that's what makes the difference, right? So I think Stroll, senior Stroll is happy, junior Stroll is learning, and I think Vettel is happy. I'm sure the package must be very good. He's got shares in Aston Martin, and he's on a big salary and all that, but why not?
Do you think that the sport as it's going, like, everyone has spoken about this, common knowledge that, it takes so much money to get to F1. Talent and all aside, like, it just takes so much money. And of course, you can't just get there. You need to be a talented enough racer also. Some level, minimum level. So do you think that going forward, we're going to see a lot more of just, those uber privileged people going into F1, like finally making it through, and that may start alienating some fans because there's no relatability? Like right now, you said, people can relate to Vettel more than they can to Stroll because, that's just how it is.
See, it is an expensive sport. It has been, it is, and it will be. If you got to understand that, it's a race car. The so-called gear you're using on yourself and your machinery is 1,000 times more expensive than any other sport, right? You can, if you do a season in Formula 2, you can probably buy a tennis court and buy enough rackets and balls for 10 years, right? You can practice every day. It is an expensive sport because you're developing a race car, almost a brand new race car every year, and there's consumables which are very high. You're changing tires. These tires are like 3 lakhs a set, and it does 20 laps. There's a reason why it's so expensive. Fuel is expensive, tires is expensive, and more than anything, designing the car is the most expensive, right? You're trying to get there's design, there's you're analyzing the through wind tunnels and other softwares to get the best design, and then you're manufacturing it, and it's carbon fiber. Like you saw, like the Imola crash, it was $1 million, £1 million for Bottas's repair, because it is that expensive. So saying that and every year they're trying to increase races. So there's people, they need to get back and forth, the cars. So I think it will remain an expensive sport. I think what needs to happen, or in some way, that if they can really raise the sponsorship through external sponsors, to media, to television, I think that should form an ecosystem where it's helping drivers who don't have that kind of backing. So in a way, not everyone is privileged. There's been a lot of drivers who are super talented, have not even made it to Formula 3 or Formula 2, let alone Formula 1. But if, like Hamilton is speaking about becoming a billionaire boy club or something like that, right? So I think money is there. It just needs to be allocated. If it is through whatever if it's a sponsorship, if it's through big companies, brands, or the television, I think there's enough money to cover people who not necessarily don't have money.
Like only driver I see again, Dhaval is opposed to this idea. The only driver who comes from a very conservative background is Ocon, and Ocon has made it to this level, and he's been there. I think in season 1, like we actually don't know the background of these drivers, right? We only see them on track, and this is what Drive to Survive has done. It shows us
exactly,
like it'll take us to their homes. You understand from which place they come from, and like Ocon comes from a very, very conservative background. Not something. He doesn't have that much amount of backing that other drivers have. So to see someone like him get through to Formula 1 and perform so well, and as you said, there are a lot of drivers even in Formula 2. Formula 2 has Robert Schwartzman, who's been driving for Formula 2 for so many years, such a great talent. I really hope to see him in that Ferrari seat, more than Mick. I want Robert to be in that seat, but such a great driver again. But it's all about it's all about the branding. It's all about satisfying your sponsors, because there's equal amount of pressure from the sponsor side also. So
and like anything, the currency here is wins and podiums, right? Everyone wants to sponsor the best team, best driver, and drivers who are on the front. And like we know, there's so many variables that even if you're doing a good race, things can go wrong, right? So, there's so many people in Formula 2 or Formula 3 in the midfield or in the back who are just talented. If you're not again, it's that same thing. You need to be best team. You need to be in Prema to win or ART to win. Then only you will win. You probably won't win with the lowest team. So again, but if it's the best team, it's obviously more expensive, and there's that cycle. So yeah, I mean, talking about money, Hamilton was the first, right? He always, in whatever interview, whenever he does well, goes back to how his father worked so many jobs, and he's come from that background. So I mean, he's been he's been in that role, that model where he's one of the first to come from a non-privileged background, obviously his ethnicity and so on. But yeah, I think that mix is always been there. I just hope it doesn't go towards more privilege. But saying that, you can't give them a hard time, right? The drivers who come with money. It's a little bit like Bollywood and nepotism, right? You have easier barrier to enter, but there are, even in Bollywood, there are very good actors who have come in through through influence or whatever you want to call it, and not so good actors who have come in. So there's just a difference, right? So even just because you have, yes, if you're supremely talented and there's money, it just helps everything. But if you're not, there's a learning curve, right? It's also that how talented you are to how you're not. Even in class, the guy who gets 90% is on 70, 80. So even like take Mazepin, right? It's his first year, right? Give him another few races and probably he'll be matching Mick. He was as faster than Mick in I think he finished ahead also in Monaco, right? So yeah, I mean, it's people's learning curve, people's talent, which sometimes people just learn slower and just need more time, right?
Like you rightly said, like we have had paid drivers before. We have had legends who are paid drivers. We have had Niki Lauda was a paid driver, and the way I look at it is that I could be wrong because I'm not from a racing background, but when you're paying money, you're not only paying money to race, but you're supporting a whole ecosystem of racing. Like in terms of when Lawrence Stroll bought Racing Point, he supported a team that was going under administration, and he gave those 300 people jobs, and the way he's managed to get that brand up, to get that team up, it's been great. I mean, the way the team has grown from pillar to pillar, now being Aston Martin, I mean, it's a big deal. So it's an ecosystem that he's building.
True.
Like even in case of Haas, it's Dimitri Mazepin putting in that amount of money because they don't have many title sponsors. Like Ural Kali, Dimitri Mazepin's company is the title sponsor for Haas, and so it's an ecosystem of engineers that he's supporting, and that will grow because now with Mick Schumacher coming into Haas, being like Schumacher name again coming into Formula One, he's going to get a lot of brands. He also going to get all brands in place. And when we talk about paid drivers, like we look at Stroll only from a perspective that he's a paid driver, but he is also an amazing talent. That is what people don't look at. He's an amazing driver. Like when the conditions are bad, I think he's one of the best drivers on track.
Last year,
Okay. So moving on. There's some chat coming in. Nishit Koti in the chat saying it's great to see Akhil here killing it out there. Jolvin asking thoughts on Pirelli tire failures. We just spoke about Pirelli tire failures, so we will not be talking about that again. But we'll move on in the race, and I want to continue this topic also about drivers and how they have to be more than just drivers now. Keeping the money aside. Now let's talk about someone like Lando Norris. His brand does not end with Formula One. His brand goes beyond that, and he's making an active effort to keep that on as well. So it's like a whole new dimension with social media and with Netflix and everything coming in. I feel like drivers need this as well. Maybe not from the previous generation, like Max, Checo, and all these guys have already sort of made it and are F1 drivers independent. But those who are still getting
Yeah.
in, do you think these guys need to be media savvy as well?
Yeah, I think it's like, I mean, it's in first, in Formula One or anything new, when you're getting into the racing world or any new world, you want to get yourself out there, right? You want to have your own identity in whatever way it might. Lando last year was, so many memes, so many funny things, team radio stuff. He got his own niche in that way. And in today's world, like you said, there's so much of social media influence happening, that you have to leverage it, right? There's so many billions of people across all the platforms, and through different age groups and different content. If you can engage and connect with them, then your exposure is that much more, and more than anything, if you're just being yourself, there's more higher relatability. At the same time, like you said, Hamilton is, I don't know what statistics, but he's probably got most of his followers in the past 3 years and nothing in the initial bit, because he's just leveraged. He's just put content, put enough stuff. Back 2018, 2019, he travel a lot, meet celebrities, and that was his thing. But you also have a Sebastian Vettel who's not on it for his own reasons, and who won't do much. And then if you compare Lando and George, George is not that much putting himself out there versus Lando. So again, it's I mean, in some ways, George, he's finishing at the back, so he can only put stuff which there's only that much he can do out there, right? So his best weekend is maybe 8th, 9th, 10th or something, right? That will be P1 for him in this thing. So, or getting that 15 to 20 is,
right, for Williams.
Yeah, sorry,
he hasn't scored for Williams.
Yeah. So then like how does a guy focus on content, and his racing is not. Yes, he's racing. He's doing a very good job. He's extremely talented, but he can't do anything special besides getting into Q2 and maybe getting very close to Q3 on Saturdays. But yeah, I think social media is there to market and get your name out there. So you want to use it, use it.
Like talking about George, Williams has had a drastic change. They have sacked their they have sacked their team principal. They are going to reorganize the whole structure, because there were two different ways they were operating, and they had a different director to whom the racing team would, the race engineers would report to a director to whom the factory people would report to. So what would happen is that on a bad day, the factory guys would blame it on the race engineers who are at the track. So now I think they've appointed one particular director who would manage both of them. So Williams is also going through a radical change. So I think it'll take them at least a season more to get into the scheme of things. But because Nicholas Latifi is also a great driver, he has had close to 24, 25 podiums in Formula 2. So it's not that. Just that it's the car that is lacking behind, and just that they need to figure things out, because this is a drastic change, because it's an organizational change that they're getting into the team. They're streamlining the process. So I think they're going in the right direction.
Yeah. So like if you take Williams in, I think 2014, 2015, they were so strong. They put it on pole in Silverstone with Massa and Bottas, and they had a very strong year. I think in some ways, in the last year and this year, that I think AlphaTauri has become that very, very strong sister team. They're always capitalizing. They're always in the top. The car is quick for a sister team. So I think when you go back to 2014, 2015, Williams was probably the best sister team, not sister team, the customer team back then. And I think that really looking forward to bouncing back to being that the best customer team, which is in that AlphaTauri region. So yeah, I mean, like anything, it takes time. They had a big reshuffle. The management changed. Claire Williams is out. They got private equity, and they're trying to make changes. So yeah, I just hope it doesn't take too long, because there's so many rules and regulations changing, and you don't know where to invest what and when to pause.
Yeah,
because the team, because they've been bought by Dolittle Capital, and it's not primarily, they're not primarily into racing. Like at least it's is their first time to Formula One. So I think they'll also be figuring stuff, and the team will be also looking at retaining George, giving George that car with which he can fight for points, at least as of now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we have some questions from the chat.
Yeah, we do have some questions from the chat. In between Sebastian and Vettel, we forgot Alonso and Kimi were also driving. That is true. Alonso also had a fairly decent race. Kimi missing out on points just about. Yeah, 7th or 8th. So
Alonso, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Alonso. Can we, next question is, can we give a special mention to the Formula One commentators? Their sass was fire the entire race. Yes, man, that was some pretty good sass from the F1 commentators. Do you guys remember a time when Alan Wilkins was doing F1 commentary? I don't know if you guys have heard this, but Alan Wilkins does commentary on every sport. I have seen him do commentary on golf, tennis, F1, cricket, football. Like 5 तो I have seen. So इससे ज़्यादा मैं मतलब उसको नहीं देखा.
काफी it's a very diversified profile that this guy has. It's a lot of knowledge you need to have.
We don't even have those many podcasts on our channel, and we are a sports channel. So add into context. Somebody saying notification nahi aaya. This is why we tell you to hit the like button, guys. When you hit the like button, the algorithm makes it like, so that other people get notifications about it. So when you're watching this, please hit the like button. It'll help with the algorithm, and other people will know about it. Latifi is a great driver. Yes. इतने दिन बाद तो top 3 में race देखने को मिला. I don't follow that, but that's it from chat for now, because there's some other chat going on that I don't want to address. We'll come back to the race. Now we'll talk about the end of the race. Just before the red flag, obviously there was that crash that Verstappen had. We've addressed that already. But before that, like, he was looking like taking a healthy lead in the championship points, with Lewis at 2 and Perez really pushing him. Like, thoughts on the championship this year?
I think it's been the most exciting championship in the last 4-5 years. It's either one is winning on either of the weekends, and it made it more interesting because none of them scored any points. So it's the same as it was the same result as entering the Baku race weekend. So if Hamilton would have won or been second, somebody would have down the line said, he won the championship because Max's tire blew and he lost out that race, and that would have been that team would have continued the entire year. So in a way, it's good. I know it's in a way it's neutralized, and they again start from where they start, how they entered Baku, and they're going forward. I think in some ways Mercedes, I think the car was not that good in Monaco and not that good in Baku, but now they're going back to proper Formula One circuits, which is more suited for the car. Paul Ricard should be better, and the other tracks going forward. So I think Mercedes have been struggling to get temperature in their tires, and that's why. That's why in Monaco, I don't know what Valtteri did, but he found something, and he was able to get a getting better temperature in, and that's why he qualified higher up and Lewis didn't. And
do you think because they don't have DAS this year?
Yeah, I think that was their weak point. I think in 18 and previous years, so that's why they came up with this brilliant invention, and that's why they were so good last year, and just because they had a weak point and they addressed it through a very cool, unique system, and they said they've gone back to it. And I think, like you said, they have tokens, and they picked certain things on the rear which affected cars which have low rake. So I think they try to choose their tokens wisely, and there are only that much you can do with the tokens. So I think they wanted to get more rear grip, which in some ways they have, and this whole the grip situation is left out. But saying that, Mercedes they've been winning for a reason. They're always finding new effective ways. I'm sure they'll come up with a solution. If it's how to get temperature in, the magic button was pretty interesting to learn about how they get temperature in the front tires. So they'll bounce back in another race or two.
I don't know if you guys have caught this, but Mercedes put out a video like breaking down Baku and like their debriefing video for YouTube. And their explanation for that end moment, like they said that, rear tires, you can get temperature by just spinning them on the spot. And front tires, usually you weave around and that's how you get temperature. But to add more, they have this magic button thing.
True, yeah.
And their explanation was while turning, Hamilton mistakenly turned it back on or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was his fault that he forgot that it was on. So I don't know, man. Like, is it? Okay. I know it's a very complex steering wheel, and we've seen that. Like, there are so many buttons on there.
I think he made a mistake.
I think this is a clear bias. I mean,
yeah, he made a mistake. That's it. Because he's raced the same car for the last 5 years, and the magic button has been there. And never once he has he's made this mistake. So I don't know. I don't know what else could you. And I'm sure.
There are no cons telling that Valtteri did a mistake in Monaco, but okay, Hamilton, it was not a mistake from Hamilton's side. I mean, this is a clear bias within the team.
People said it was Bottas's fault that the wheel nut didn't come off because
he went forward. He was too correct, yeah.
What? What? Okay, let's go back to that. What do you think? Like, these guys are used to stopping on a penny, right?
Yeah.
They can do that with those cars. So what?
I think it's a bit of fluff because you're seeing drivers stop before. You've seen drivers hit the front jack guy.
Yeah.
You're seeing all kinds of positions.
Drivers run away with the fuel still in.
If it is like this, or like that, I'm sure they're trained to put the wheel gun correctly. And I'm sure Valtteri, from whatever personality he has, I'm pretty sure the guy is going to do his best. So he's not a guy who will go hit the jack guy or stop very early. He's very calculated and very thorough with his stuff. So he's probably off, but I don't think you can blame him for that. It's just the gun didn't get on, and like I said, it machined those grooves, and it just never got on. So it's a bit of I don't believe it.
Do you find some merit in our theory about Mercedes designating someone to mess with Bottas? I mean, maybe it's Toto Wolff, maybe that's a side job. Toto Wolff has his hands in so many pies that maybe he's just got a side job from Mercedes where he makes a lot more money than he does manage being principal of that team.
Maybe it's a George's Williams mechanic doing something.
Oh yeah, maybe it is.
I saw a meme. It's a great meme. Like Valtteri couldn't take off, from Finland, and there's a meme like George is calling. He's like, I need to report drugs on the plane.
Yeah.
So a guy from Finland coming and there's drugs in the baggage. That's so funny and relevant. I mean, there's so much of pressure. Let's talk about jokes apart. There's so much of pressure on Bottas right now because he's had a good start. He's had a reasonably good start, but he's not been able to kind of convert it. And there's so much of pressure. I think it was that pressure that got him. It got to him in Baku. Do you feel?
See, again, little bit step back. The last few years, the only competition he had was his teammate. So he could put all his focus on, analyzing his teammates' data and going faster than him in qualifying and managing the tires better and doing that thing. Now, obviously, there's Red Bull. Sometimes there's a McLaren in the mix. There's a Ferrari in the mix. So his competition has become not the best guy. It's become 3, 4 more cars. So and it's become so tight that 1/10, 2/10 is you're either 4th or 5th or at the back. Secondly, their car is, they're not as their car compared to the previous years, it doesn't have that significant advantage, or versus the other cars are caught up. So it's more of a level playing field. And in some ways, Lewis is, not in some ways, Lewis is the number one driver. You can listen to all the talk saying that it's an equal car and all that, but if Lewis does well, there's more people happy than if Valtteri does well. Unfortunately, it is. So, Valtteri, like in Baku, he went was the first car to go, and they'll tell you they alternate every weekend and so on. But he was first car to go. Lewis got the thinner rear wing. He got the toe of Valtteri, and hence he qualified P2. But yes, there was a red flag. But Valtteri probably would have finished fifth. But and they said that the rear wing was Valtteri's choice. But there's certain he's definitely helping Lewis to whatever he can, and it's making him look like the second driver. But I think the pressure is much more this year because competition is increased. His car doesn't have that, is not superior, and he's just had some unlucky weekends with the tire not coming off. What can you say to that?
Like talking about competitive teammates, I think this year, after so many years, Max has had a formidable competition now. I think there's a formidable competition in Red Bull because I think they, like what they did with Gasly and Albon, they just cannot screw around with Perez. Perez is a guy who has that backing. He's the guy who has that amount of experience.
Perez is the guy who probably has some cartel backing. I'm not saying drug cartel. Just like there's probably a cartel like that back.
Like we could see last Netflix season, like Gunther Steiner talking to Perez that I need to change 2 flights to come to the race, and Perez is like, you can just come to Guadalajara. I just take I just take my own. I have my own jet, and I was like, like this is true. Perez has some kind of backing where if they're trying to screw around with him, like Christian Horner just gets a call,
So there's some question about, we've always, because of whatever reason, everyone wants to know why Daniel Ricciardo is not doing so well. And I keep getting the feeling it's because, he's just like, he's doing as well as he can. It's not like he's one of those extraordinarily amazing drivers who's going to take like a car that is not even capable of finishing in points and take it to pole or something like that. I don't think he's that level of driver. It's like,
I think he's definitely very talented, and he's very talented. And I say that because when Max was coming up, and everyone was calling Max the best driver in the world, Daniel was winning races and out qualifying him, and showing that I'm as good, if not better, than Max in the same car. So that's why this whole Daniel thing of he's very good, he's won races, very talented. I think in some ways he thought he'll do a Hamilton by going to Renault, where your manufacturer coming up and they'll try to dominate, and that didn't happen. And now he's back to McLaren. In some ways I feel he left Red Bull for a reason, and he's back to the same reason in McLaren. I think in some ways, there's probably many reasons, but one of the reasons is having a teammate, 8-9 years younger than you, being the number one, being the priority of the team in Red Bull. And now he's in the same situation where there's again 8-9 years younger driver who's quick, who's kind of priority,
and who's their long-term prospect.
Yeah. So, but I think it's balanced out. They don't want that in McLaren. At least they want to give Daniel a good chance. I think it's like Sergio adapted very well to the car. Carlos Sainz adapted very well to the car. Vettel took some time. Daniel, I think he's had, like in Portimao he did well. In some other qualifying he did well. So I think he, like he said in many interviews, he has to just relearn how to drive the car. It is very different. Some people just get it, learn quickly. Some people don't. But I think another few races, and I won't be surprised if he's on par with Lando, if not better. So another few races, and they'll be pretty much fighting each other.
Even before he joined McLaren, Zach Brown has clearly stated that we have promised him a car that will win him, like that with which he can challenge for the World Championship, but that car we can only provide him in 2022. So I think he's had those discussions. The dynamics are in place where he knows what he has gotten himself into. Like he had issues with the braking. the way the car brakes and the way engineers are also helping him with the data. Like we saw, like people coming into the new team, like even Vettel has had a good relationship with his race engineer in Aston Martin. The same goes with Daniel also. He's had a great race. He like the kind of inputs that he's getting in from the team, the support that he's getting in from the team is very positive, out and out. So I think this will go a long way in helping him get used to the car.
Yeah, like I said, I think another few races and he should be up to speed and no excuses.
Yeah, he will be left with no excuses after that.
Yeah.
But moving on, let's look forward now. We've analyzed Baku. We've more or less gone through it. Next is a track where you have raced.
Yeah.
So you can tell us a little bit about that. And is it exactly the same when it comes to
same layout?
Same layout.
Yeah.
So all the corners and all the turns are the same. Is the racing line also the same, or does that change from car to car?
It varies because they have more aero, so their line is a bit different. Okay. But more or less it's the same. The lines are the same, 80-90% the same. Obviously, braking points are very different. But yeah, same circuit, same everything. Yeah, I think Paul Ricard is an interesting track because we had two street circuits. Some of the like Mercedes has not been dominant, and in some ways it's good to see them struggling. But I think they should be back on pace here. I think Red Bulls, more or less, they're a very strong team this year, and irrespective of the track, they should be strong in Paul Ricard. I think Ferrari, I don't think they will be up there unless something special comes about. I think McLaren again will get back to that third best, if not fourth best team. So yeah, I think Mercedes will be back to their A game, and I think Red Bull will have to fight. I think also a weakness in Red Bull is, I think, from what we've seen, is they're not as competitive on a full tank, while the Mercedes is, and vice versa. The Red Bull is more competitive on lower fuel, and the Mercedes isn't. So with all those mixes in place, and it's also it's summer in Europe, right? And so there's this whole tire temperature thing is probably helping Mercedes in some way, where it's externally warmer and hotter and all that, so they can get more tire temps up. So yeah, I think it will go back to something like Barcelona or something like that kind of grid and that kind of grid order.
Would you be willing to venture some predictions for the next race?
I'm going to say
he's going to do well. So are you predicting the Hamilton P1?
Too soon to say though, but something from your end. I mean, what do you feel?
Yeah, like you said, it's too soon to say. I don't know if anyone has brought any upgrades, anyone who's putting a new engine in. But I think Hamilton will be back in top 3 and be in qualifying and in the race. He'll be back in that podium spot. Considering if nothing goes wrong externally, Max will be in the same situation. I think for whatever reason, I think Pierre might be in that mix because he's pumped. He's home Grand Prix, he's coming out from a race, from a podium. So I think he'll have that extra oomph in him to do well because he wants to definitely show. So I'd say Lewis, Max top 3, Sergio in the top 3, and top 5, and then even Pierre in the top 5. There'll be one wild card. I don't know if it's Lando or Ferrari or whatever. Or Bottas.
Bottas. Bottas would not be a wild card, man. Bottas would just be like some weird freak stroke of luck that 10 drivers before him just don't finish.
I seriously hope Bottas gets a podium like in coming 2-3 races.
Yeah,
We're heading towards a triple header, like 3 races back. Yeah. It's going to be very exciting. Those teams won't be getting the same amount of time to work on their cars as much. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, like, from one race to another. Like, how they manage with their upgrades and everything. So it'll be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Before we wrap up, there are just a couple of questions from chat, after which we can say thank you, goodbye. Gulshan asking, Red Bull is going to make their own engine. Thoughts on that? It's still a while away, right?
Yeah,
I think that's in 2025.
No, it's the next regulation. But I think that's when we say make their own engine, it's in many ways they are getting all the IP and technical know-how from Honda, which is a big base, right? They're not starting from scratch and redesign anything. So they already have a big base and big IP there, and they're obviously been hiring God knows how many people from Mercedes and elsewhere to put into that engine division. So I think in the combination of having strong existing IP and having engineers, technicians, and people from winning teams, I think that engine will be as competitive, if not most competitive than anything else. I think Red Bull always, they've always had a very, very strong car because of Adrian Newey and their team, aero-wise or mechanical-wise. It's always the engine which they've been lacking. If it's from Renault or Honda. So I think Honda now is, they're almost up there. But I think they're taking things into their own hands, and it's obviously very expensive, and there's a lot of things have to play out for it to turn out well. But there's a reason why Mercedes and Ferrari do things in house, have so much more control, and comes at a price, but they're taking that leap ahead.
Yeah. And final question. This is more of a rumor mongering question that Mercedes have rumored to have announced that Russell will replace Bottas at Silverstone. I personally don't see that happening.
No,
I think that would be more of a dick move to like from
Bottas said, there's only one team who does that, right?
Really? What? I have missed this. Can you?
No, there was a press conference, and the same thing. They asked, "Do you think you will get replaced before the season ends?" And because he's like, "No, I don't think so. We don't operate like that. There's only one team on the grid who does things like that."
And I think it was Red Bull.
Yeah, obviously Red Bull. Yeah, So he's confident that Mercedes culture is not like that.
Yeah, I think I agree with him over there. But on that note, we've come to the end of this stream. Thank you so much, Akhil, for giving us some time out of your very busy schedule. And he's coming to us live from Coventry, so there's all the time difference and all. But I think it's 2:00 in the afternoon for you.
Yeah, so, just 3. Yeah. No, but it was good. Thank you guys for having me. I think we touched on all the interesting, controversial, all the points, and some interesting questions. Like getting paid drivers, not paid. I think very interesting, and good luck, and hopefully all of you please subscribe and grow this channel. They're doing a good job.
Thank you so much, Akhil. And like Akhil said, and there's details of everyone's social in the description to the videos. So go there and follow them all. And thank you so much, chat, for tuning in. Thank you to the mods. Thank you so much, Sid, once again. And Sid, what about next week? Are we making any announcements for next week right now? We will be coming to you pre-race. We just don't know whether
we will be coming to you with the pre-race. So so follow us on Instagram. So we'll be posting. A couple of videos, new reels related to the Formula World, and so see you guys next week.
Yes. On that note, thank you and goodbye. That's the end. At the end of the stream.
Thank you.